So I heard you want to freestyle. Want to learn how to do some flips? Maybe a couple rolls? We're going to show you today on today's episode of Rotor Riot. So today on Rotor Riot, we are going to do what I'm going to call the Rotor Riot trick series.
Basically, a lot of you guys have been asking how to do various tricks. Some of them are the simple ones, some of them are the technical ones. We're going to particularly start off with some of the basic ones, teach you guys that, and then we'll start going to some of the more technical ones. And who knows, we might even get some of the other guys out there that do some of that really different stuff. So I'll get them in there, get them asking how they do it, so you guys can learn how to do it as well.
Alright, so let's start off with the basic roll. That is on the X-axis and it looks like this.
Then of course you've got the flip.
And last but not least, the last axis, the Z-axis. Is it the Z-axis?
I don't know, I've never actually could work them out.
Okay, the yaw axis. That's basically when your quadcopter does this.
This is not what a roll looks like.
Alright, so we've explained what it looks like on the quad.
Break a prop. So a lot of people think that when you flip, you just got the power on and you do a flip or a roll or whatever. If you were just to keep the power on when you do, say, a roll, it's actually going to turn into like a barrel roll, so it's going to lose altitude. It won't be an actual roll. It will be a barrel roll like so.
Right.
And what a lot of the pilots will see out there when they watch a lot of these videos is they see these really quick flips. The difference with what's happening there is there's actually zero throttle.
Correct.
So zero throttle and a very quick flip, or roll in this case. The problem with that though is if you just drop the throttle and do a roll, it's going to drop in altitude. So what the pilots will actually do, and what I do, and I know you do the same thing, Tommy, is you give a little bit of throttle to make it burst up in the air a little bit, burst up in the air, quick flip, and then come back on the power again. And it's all about the timing with the throttle.
So you give it a little bit of a blip so that you catch a little bit of air, so it's just kind of like jumping up. Throttle down, do your trick, and what you're doing is you're actually staying within your three-dimensional space.
Yep.
If you stay on the throttle, it's going to do this, depending on how much throttle you've got.
Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and step through that, explain to you what that is actually doing, and give you some demonstrations so that you can better understand it.
One thing to remember, of course, is there are a number of different flying modes. So the more common in multi-rotors is mode 2.
That's the normal common mode, yes. Or you could be weird like this guy.
Yeah. If you're weird like me, then you fly mode 1 with the throttle on the other side. So when we do our tricks, we're both going to get some stick cam footage, so that way, if you're a mode 1 pilot, it's all familiar. If you're a mode 2 pilot, it's all familiar. Mode 3 and mode 4, no one cares about that. Seriously, get out of the park.
Alright, so
we start off with a little bit of a roll, and let's just start off with a basic roll with throttle on.
Something in like the wide open field. There you go. So with the throttle on, what you're going to notice on the FPV camera or the footage is that it's actually a little bit off axis.
Yeah.
There you go.
You can see I was losing height there.
What happens when you do it with zero throttle?
Okay, so if we just go zero throttle, we're falling out of the sky.
So what you'll notice, the roll is tighter and closer to the actual roll axis. Now I'm doing this with about 35 degrees of camera tilt, so my rolls were actually going to look a little bit different. So let's go through this gap right here.
You're just doing the mode 2 equivalent, what the mode 2 pilot would normally see.
I'm going to do it a little closer to the ground, so I'm going to do it snappier.
That's the cool thing about doing that. Once you get the technique right, you can actually get down low, you can get close to things, so you don't actually lose height. So you can do it indoors. It's like we've got leaves falling on you.
Just attacked me right now.
The branches are falling. Let's hold it when we get to the inverted stage. So all we're doing is the same thing as what we're doing before. There's a blip of throttle and zero throttle when you're rolling, and when you recover you're giving throttle again. But the difference is I'm probably going to give a little bit more throttle than what I normally would to give myself a little bit more of a sort of a vertical climb, and I'm going to hold inverted. So here we go.
And this is how you start giving your freestyle tricks, a little bit more swag, a little bit more style, and a little bit more flavor. This is when you can start becoming a little bit more you and less vanilla, if you will. So I'll do that same roll and I'll double it up here.
It's worth pointing out that to do this kind of thing, you do need to have like air mode activated or an idle up switch or something like that, so that way you've still got full control of the quad at 0 throttle. And if you went to 0 throttle without that kind of a setting, you wouldn't actually have control anymore and you'd crash. So that's the reason for having that.
That's actually a good point, Chad, because an air mode or even an idle up switch is very common nowadays. But if you are old school, just keep in mind that if you do go 0 throttle and you don't have any of those activated, just like Chad said, you'll lose stabilization and you'll just fall out the sky.
The flip is the same thing as what we're talking about with a roll, except you're doing it on the pitch axis. The difference is that you lose reference of the horizon. So a flip can be a little bit more disorientating than a roll. So a roll, when I do a roll, I can see the horizon the whole time and I know when to stop. It's a bit harder with a flip. But let's try a flip with throttle on. And you can see it almost looks like a loop. You're gaining some altitude when you start, but you're losing some altitude. So it's not really a flip, it's more of a loop.
We're gonna have Chad do it 0 throttle, and what that'll do is allow you to do the flip a lot tighter, again, keeping your trajectory without losing altitude.
So here we go. Well, once again, we're descending. So to stop ourselves from descending like we do here, the way to get around that is just simply to blip a little bit of throttle before you actually go into the flip and then recover it with a bit of throttle straight afterwards.
Right, so the good way to remember it is the more throttle blip that you give it before you do the move, the more air time you've got to do your actual move.
I've been doing the flips, but I've been doing them quite quick. So you can do like a half flip and then you can actually do the rest of the flip quite slowly. So you can change your rotation rate. So give that a bit of a go, Tommy, if you dare. So it's not just starting and stopping, it's actually changing the rotation rate, so the speed of the flip or the roll, and you can really customize it to the way that you want to fly.
You can even do the backflip aiming down and then add a little bit of roll back to it. I'm doing a little bit of more combination tricks here, so let's not do that.
That's the other thing, you can start playing around with it too, is you don't have to recover the same way that you went in. So pull back and then push forward. And of course you can get a little bit more crazy and just go reverse, full flip, reverse, and bring it around. So you can just play with it whichever way you want.
Yeah, a good way of even thinking about this is fractions, right? So if you think of one full flip as 1, then you can break things up into, say, half and half. So kind of like what he's doing now, he's doing a half backflip to stall it, and then he's doing another half maneuver to bring himself out of it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna come in and land because I got to change back.
All right.
So I'll be like 30 seconds.
So this will probably be a good time to talk about rates. And rates is basically the rotational speed of your aircraft. And depending on what flight controller and firmware that you use, this will differ. But essentially, the higher the rates, the faster the roll or flip will occur. And that will determine how far into the stick that you want to go to. I know that Chad, myself, and some of the other freestyle pilots, we like to use higher rates. And so what that means is we don't want to necessarily stay at the very end of your stick for very long, because otherwise you're just going to do like 3 million flips in like half a second, unless you want to do that trick. But that's when what allows you to do a little bit more expression, a little bit more, again, flavor, is being able to moderate or modulate, if you will, your stick movement.
The yaw is the interesting one, because if I'm just hovering like so and I do a yaw, the world turns around nice and flat because you're hovering. But you're also looking kind of at the sky because my camera is tilted, and this is where camera tilt starts becoming a bit more of an issue. So if I do that while I am flying forward, now you've got to remember that now the quad is tilted. If I fly forward and I just do a yaw, a full 360-degree yaw, I see ground, I see sky, and I see ground again. That doesn't look good on camera, and it doesn't look very flat.
Right. So this is where your camera angle becomes very important, because the more camera angle that you've got, the weirder, I'm going to say, it looks. And in order to do a flat yaw spin, what you're actually going to have to do is give it some rudder and a little bit of roll stick in order to level it out. Nice and slow. Now let's just do it a little bit snappier.
And this is also where setting up the amount of yaw in terms of rate compared to the roll rate is very, very important. So you just don't put random amounts in. You want to put enough amount in so that when you actually give full stick on both of them, it actually goes nice and flat. So you'll see this is a lot flatter. You're actually seeing the horizon the whole way around, but you can actually speed it up. It kind of looks just like a flat yaw when you do it right, but it's not. It's full aileron and full rudder.
And so a normal yaw spin would look like this, with no roll input. But what he's doing to compensate for that, to make the camera look like it's actually spinning on the yaw, is it's spinning this way and it's actually doing this. We could even just go a half yaw and fly backwards for a little bit. Alright, how much time I got back on my radio here?
You're at plus 37 seconds.
Oh, let's land then.
So you need to land, dagnammit. And he's done.
Alright, stop the cameras? Or do you want me to do another one? For good measure. Producer.
I think it was good.
Yeah, I think we should just keep recording.
Okay.
I mean, everything looks so good.
Okay. Alright. Looks so fantastic. Now that we got the basic flips and rolls, I say that we just do a couple of just more freestyle flying, where we basically just combine some of the things that we have learned. And we'll keep it just to the basics. It'll just be either flips, rolls, or yaw spins, and just some type of variation of that. Or even a little bit of combos.
Yeah.
And then you get to see basically what you can make out of it, really.
Let's go fly and have some fun.
Alright guys, that concludes part 1 of the Rotor Riot mini trick series. Hopefully you learned all of the basic foundations, the roll, the flip, the yaw axis spin. From this point forward, everything is going to be based off of that, so that is definitely something you're going to want to study. Don't be afraid to rewind, study things. He got things from a mode 1 perspective, I got it from a mode 2 perspective.
Going forward, we're going to have some of the more complicated tricks like the inverted yaw spins, loops, rando rolls, things like that. But what I'd like to know is if there's any pilots out there that you are interested in us showcasing. There's plenty of pilots out there that have got some really cool moves, that have got their own style. We'd like to get them on the show so that they can share the love, tell us how they do all that sort of stuff, so you guys can learn too.
Or if there's a specific trick out there that you want us to teach you, maybe it's like an S flip, you want us to explain it, show it to you how you do it, put it in the comments.
Anyway guys, we're done for the day. We've got some batteries to burn. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things.
Now we're gonna roll out. Huh? Did you get it? Roll out?
Ciao guys.
Let me show you how it's done.
Let's go fly quads!
Hey, I'm trying to be serious and cool here, and you're messing up my shot. Chad.